We are live on a Victory Monday. It is Nick Wize, Aaron Jacobson with me. Good afternoon, Tampa Bay. It 23-3 victory. I got to be honest, Aaron. I didn't catch a lot of the show this morning, and I probably should have. I had a lot going on this morning. My wife my wife is the cleanest person. You've been to my house, but she has cleaning ladies. And for whatever reason, they have to come at 7:45. So I got to hurry up, get in the shower. There's just a lot going on a
Multiple
Monday.
ladies?
Sometimes there's multiple.
Mhm.
Today there was just one. And so my routine was out of normal, so I didn't get to hear the show. What was your take on the Bucks? Because it was a 23-3 victory. And remember, I told you they were going to win by 21. Was it you that I told?
No.
Was it you that I told to bet the Bucks minus 21?
I don't remember.
They end up winning by 20, but it's a blowout win. But at the end of the day, I didn't feel good about the win at all. Like going into the bye week at 6-2, I didn't feel good about the Buccaneers and how they played.
Well, I felt good about the defense. I didn't feel good about the offense. And I think that's a product, Nick, of this team is banged up. We know how banged up they are. They have to get to this bye. They limp their way to this bye week. The offensive line has got some struggles. The run game without Bucky Irving has had some struggles. I thought Sean Tucker looked good in limited role. You got to use him more. But yeah, I didn't feel great about the goal line stands. You're at the 1 yard line. You got fought with a penalty. You get an extra opportunity to run the ball in, and they couldn't do it.
In that goal line stand too, I kept saying, give the ball to Sean Tucker.
Me
And they
too.
did on fourth down, but like
Too late.
Too late. You let 3 plays go by where you ran it up the middle with Rashad White, who is I'm going to be facetious here, but half the weight of Sean Tucker. Like Sean Tucker is just a bigger dude. Like let him pile it into the end zone, and they didn't do it until fourth down. Finally, they get another opportunity later in the game, and they gave it to Sean Tucker, and they get into the end zone. But I thought Josh Grizzard had one of his worst play calling days yesterday.
Yeah, he did. But then again, Baker doesn't look right. There's something off about Baker, and I think that's why he needs this bye week, because mechanically, he's just missing throws that he wouldn't miss and missing them by a lot. And that tells me there's something mechanically wrong, which he might be overcompensating for an injury. But I didn't think Grizzard was terrible yesterday. Like specifically the goal line, for instance. I'm okay if you decide to run the ball 4 times. Run the ball at the gut. If you can't get
I had
1
no
yard.
problem with the runs. You run it 4 times. That's fine. I just didn't like who they were running it with.
I'm with you on that. Personnel, that's part of the decision making when you're putting the package out there, who you want running the football. And I'm with you. I like Rashad White. Bucky Irving's the number 1. And when Bucky's out, Sean Tucker should be the number 1. And Rashad should just stay in the role that he has been in all season. And that has had a really good season in that role.
No, I thought on the goal line too, it was almost like a Mike Evans fade to Shepard.
Which makes no sense. With a guy his size, why would you be throwing a fade? Which is even to a Mike Evans, which he'll make that play a lot of times. I hate that play call at the 1 yard line. I hate it.
No, because that's why you have Mike Evans can do that play. With him, I don't mind that play call. I thought with Shepard to have a predetermined throw going into the huddle on the 1 yard line where you've struggled to score, to go to that play didn't make much sense. I definitely wasn't happy with the Buccaneers offense yesterday, but I think you're right. I think the injuries they've gotten through, to the bye week at 6-2, and they've obviously been injured, especially on offense. Mike Evans is out. Ibuka's had his issues. Chris Godwin, we don't know if he's ever coming back. And Bucky's been out. I think the injuries are finally starting to catch up with the Buccaneers, and you saw it yesterday. Again, 23-3 victory, and I left that game going, I don't feel good about this football team.
Do you think most Bucks fans are on that page, or do you think they're impressed with what the defense did and they realize that it was just one of those games for offense and they'll be fine? Or do you think that more people are just overall concerned with how this team looks, which is surprising considering they just beat the Saints by 20 in New Orleans and they're going into their bye at 6-2?
I think if that defense performance happened against any other team, people would feel a little bit better. But the fact that it was the Saints, it was Spencer Rattler, it was Tyler Shuck, I think I don't think the defense can play at that level every game. I mean, do you think the defense is closer to what they've been all year, or do you think what you saw yesterday was what the defense is going to be like going forward? Because I felt like they played their best game, 100%.
Yeah,
and,
no doubt.
Should have had 2 touchdowns. There was no whistle. I've watched that play over and over again. I thought the play calling, I had that whole conspiracy last week where I said they were going to get blown out in Detroit. There's going to be bad calls. And after that game, you were going to talk about bad officiating. Well, I then countered it by saying Tampa Bay was going to win by 21 and they were going to get all the favorable calls in this game. I felt like they kind of had some weird calls go against them once again this weekend.
And then you had the phantom whistle, which you just brought up, which I didn't hear it either.
I didn't hear. I've watched multiple videos from different angles. Now, I read the pool report. The referee said that the referee on the other side of the field blew the whistle. I've watched every single replay. I have still, and not one player on the field reacted to a whistle that entire play.
That's it right there and we noted it on the Pat and Aaron show this morning typically, Nick, when you see that, and we see inadvertent whistles all the time. And when they happen, or not even inadvertent, just a whistle that blow the play dead, players will, if you just hear one, at least one player around that whistle will hesitate. They'll stop. Nobody stopped. Everyone kept going in that play. So I don't know what the hell happened there, but either way, Antoine Winfield Jr. had an incredible game, and he kept going, and Anthony Nelson had an incredible game too.
Yeah, they brought pressure all day long, and they look that was their best defensive performance. If they can play at that defensive level all year long, this team's going to be really good because we expect them to get healthier.
Definitely.
I had said at the beginning of the year what folks want from Todd Bowles, because even after he signed an extension, people still have Todd Bowles on a hot seat. They always will, right? He's just that coach that seems to always be on the hot seat, even after he wins the division year in and year out, gets an extension. Fans still don't love Todd Bowles. My take at the beginning of the year, what fans want from him, obviously wins and losses matter, but they want, I think, a top 10 defense. And that's what they want out of Todd Bowles. He's a defensive guru. When you hear national media talk about him, when you hear the broadcasters talk, it's a Todd Bowles defense, right? That Todd Bowles defense is respected, and we don't necessarily respect it here. I think what fans want out of Todd Bowles is a top 10 defense, and he gave you what looked to be a top 10 defense yesterday, but can they do that against good teams? That's going to be the question. Again, it was the New Orleans Saints, and that's why a 23-3 victory, I walk away going, all right, great win. They get to the bye. This is all good. We expect Bucky Irving back after the bye. I still just felt afterwards, I didn't feel like they won the game. Like they did.
Well, that's crazy.
But when your team wins, you're happy, right? Like you're happy with any win in the NFL. I wasn't necessarily just super happy with that win. I thought after the Buccaneers lost to Detroit, I felt like the offense looked like the same offense that was in Detroit, and that was concerning, whether it's injuries or not, because they're going to get Bucky Irving back, but they're not going to have Mike back. Like a lot of this offense is what you're going to see the rest of the way going forward.
It's because your expectations have changed, much like a lot of other Bucs fans. I'm telling you, I've been doing radio here for a very long time. And 10 years ago, if you would have given Buccaneers fans a win like yesterday, they would have had a parade in the streets for beating the Saints in New Orleans like that. They wouldn't have cared how you did it. But the expectations for a fan base for the Bucs now is to not just win the division, to win a Super Bowl. And the performance out there yesterday, I'm with you. That was not a team that is going to be able to compete to win a Super Bowl. But Bucs fans have been through this enough to know that is one game, and they still got the win. And that's what matters, as you noted. So was it perfect? Absolutely not. But when we talk about Todd Bowles' defense, Nick, you can't look at it the same as years past because, and it's very interesting with the Bucs because Todd Bowles focused on the defense. He lets the offensive coordinator focus on the offense. And every year they have a top offense, it seems like, in at least the last few. And then those coaches go off and they find new jobs. But you have to look at the personnel for Todd Bowles, and that's different this year. So many young pieces on defense. And as this season goes along, and as it's gone along, and once this bye week comes to a conclusion, and they get to the other side of it, we're looking at the evolution of the Jacob Parishes, the Benjamin Morrisons, even, it's first, second year at Tyke Smith, young guys on this defense that are figuring it out. Elijah Roberts. That, as the season goes on and they grow up quickly, and as they already have, that's going to give, I think, Bucs fans more confidence because Todd Bowles is figuring it out. As he's getting to know those guys and learn those guys and use them as personnel, he's figuring out and scheming up a good defense. So I actually don't have any worries as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, see, I'm a little concerned on the offense. The defense going forward, if they can play like that, I'll be happy.
So you feel better. You feel good about where Todd Bowles is taking this defense.
I feel better about the defense. I mean, that was a great performance. I want to see that against an elite offense. And actually, I thought the defense held up, rather well against even the Lions and their high-powered attack.
Agreed.
The Lions, I felt, had opportunities to put up 40, and they only come away with 24 in that game. I thought the defense held up pretty good there, too. The offense is where I'm worried right now. I don't expect the defense. I expected the defense coming in to be middle of the pack, which is kind of what they are. So I didn't think they were going to be terrible. I definitely didn't think they would be as good as what they played yesterday. I don't know if they could do that game in and week out, but I expected the defense to be middle of the pack, but I expected the offense to be 1, 2, or 3 coming into the year. And they haven't looked like that the last couple of weeks.
Coming into the year, this team had Mike Evans. This team was getting Chris Godwin back. We didn't know about Tristan Wirfs and how the severity of that injury. Like coming into the year, we were a lot more optimistic because we had so many pieces and weapons. Those weapons all went away. We were not even talking about McMillan, who got hurt as well. There are so many pieces that could have been. I mean, if you think about this offense with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Emeka Egbuka, Jalen McMillan, Bucky Irving, Rachaad White, if they're fully healthy, Luke Gedeke at right tackle, if they're Cody Mauch at right guard, if they're fully healthy, this is the best offense in football without a doubt.
I would definitely say, top 3 when fully healthy. But you're right. I think you point out something. I was so spoiled to watching them continue to win, even with all of the injuries, that maybe I don't necessarily take into account. Those are kind of catching up to them, and I still expect them to be 1, 2, or 3. But I guess if the defense can play like that every single week, they don't have to. But Baker Mayfield, let me ask you this. Would Baker Mayfield, in college football, you have one bad week, you're out for the Heisman, right? And it just completely changes. Like, I think John Mateer was the favorite. He sat out against Kent State. He's nowhere near the top now. Is Baker Mayfield, and I know you guys have talked about him being an MVP candidate, a couple times on your show. And, I know Buccaneer fans were really upset a couple weeks ago when Patrick Mahomes was the favorite. To me, that was Vegas just projecting Mahomes to have a better end of the season than Baker Mayfield. And so far, they're right.
And I think more money was rolling in on Mahomes at
correct.
the time, so that changes
the
value.
I think people, when they're sitting there trying to project the rest of the year, it's just natural. You're going to pick Mahomes to have a better second half of the year than Baker Mayfield. I get that. Is he officially out of the running after going, 152 yards, 0 touchdowns? Like, can we stop throwing out, every week thinking he's going to have 3 touchdowns? I mean, that's just a lot to.
Well, if you're going to ask me, is it officially over, Nick? The answer is no. The answer is no. Go look at Josh Allen's MVP campaign last year. He had a couple stinkers in his season last year. So no, it's not over. Now, if he has 1 or 2 more, then yeah, it's over. But no, if he comes back after the bye, and then the Buccaneers, have a tough schedule. If he performs well throughout that, and then the last run, the end of the year, where it's a very light schedule, if he dominates that schedule after doing well against good teams, he's, to me, right back in the front runner conversation for MVP. So I think a couple bad games. Once again, go look at Josh Allen's stats from last year. He had a couple clunkers. Go look at Lamar Jackson's stats from last year. When you asked, does Baker still have a chance at the MVP? Lamar Jackson had one of the most historical seasons historically last year, and his team was good. And Josh Allen still got the MVP. So they seem to want to give it to new guys, and Baker Mayfield would be a very good story if he won the MVP for the NFL.
All right, I just pulled up Josh Allen's stats from last year.
Go look at his game stats.
2024. Yards a game.
Go look at individual games. He had a couple clunkers.
Yeah, I've got that pulled up. You're right, he does. He's got 182. Well, he started off. Actually, no, this was at the end of the season. 154, 182.
Yeah.
He's got a 148 in there.
There you go. That's an MVP season in which Lamar Jackson once again had one of the most historic seasons from the quarterback position offensively, statistic-wise, ever. And Josh Allen had multiple clunkers and won that.
Yeah, Josh Allen only had 3,700 yards passing last year. But, when you look at when you add his rushing yards in there, that obviously makes up for it, which Baker's, he's done fine there too, but
not Josh Allen on the ground, but
no. Baker's just made those plays where he comes away, on 3rd and 14, and you're like, how did he make that play?
Josh Allen's a quarterback and a running back. Baker Mayfield's a quarterback that unfortunately sometimes has to use his legs to extend a drive, but we don't want him doing that. Josh Allen uses that body and that frame and those legs to do that by design.
Were you impressed with Tez Johnson yesterday? Because I thought in the Detroit game, I know he had scored a touchdown, but I lost a little bit of confidence in him just in basic stuff. Like he ran the wrong route multiple times.
He ran into one of his guys.
Well, there was one point in the Detroit game where he goes up and him and Mike go for the ball, and Tez comes down, and he's probably like, Mike's looking at him like, "What are you doing here?" I thought he played well yesterday, and he's going to have to continue to play well after the bye week. Do you think Bucky Irving is with this team after the bye week?
I do. I think he will be back with his team after the bye week. They need him, and I think the extra week is going to help him tremendously. I mean, for that type of injury, this is kind of the timeline we're looking at it, and we were always looking at was to get him back after the bye week. The question is, like, with Bucky, I believe he'll be fine. I have no idea what's going on with Chris Godwin. I have no clue.
Yeah, I don't feel good about Godwin at all because the fibula injury kind of came out of nowhere. They declare him out pretty quickly.
And I've never heard of like a bruised fibula or like usually it's like you break it, right?
Yeah.
I'm not a doctor.
I have a feeling that even when Godwin comes back, and this was my worry all along, and this is why, you remember when people were very upset with me when I was afraid to say they had the best, wide receiver duo in the NFL. Most people were alluding to Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. I don't even think they're the best wide receiver duo on the Buccaneers anymore. And,
how can
a lot
you
of it was because I wasn't sure Godwin was ever going to come back as the same Chris Godwin, and still he hasn't. So, look, if this team can get fully healthy, and maybe all of these injuries are never a good thing, but if you can, get to the playoffs healthy and not have a lot of miles on the tires, then this team could be, in a really good position.
Unfortunately, that doesn't happen. That's not the case. That's just never how it goes. Like Antoine Winfield Jr. last year he was hurt. We know he was hurt. Look at him this year. Look at what he did yesterday against the Saints. Look at what being healthy can do to a player that is all pro and has all pro potential. It brings the best out of you. But in this league, it's almost impossible to stay healthy like that. Can't do it.
No, I feel like injuries are up all across the league. Like, my wife's got a fantasy football team. I hate fantasy football.
Me too.
I know you do too. My wife's got a team. She has me help her. There's like 6 or 7 players that are all hurt. And it's like, it's not just Buccaneers. I know it feels like every time somebody gets hurt, it's the Buccaneers, but every team is dealing with injuries. Injuries, I feel like this year have been worse than ever.
Is that the controversial league in which we're having issues with people colluding and trading for a week?
Yes.
Yeah.
There was an incident in my wife's league where her aunt and her cousin, it's a son and a mother, he wanted to loan her a quarterback while her quarterback was on a bye week. And I was like, no. And that turned into a whole, like,
the family broke up, right?
Yeah, Paige definitely felt a little disrespected that, like, they did that to her, and they're complaining about it. It's you can't do that. It's called collusion. You're not even a serious fantasy football player. You knew that was wrong.
Right away, I was like, that is not okay.
What was the first thing that went through your mind when Anthony Nelson scores a touchdown? Because I'm wondering if it's the same thing that went through my mind.
Well, it was. First of all, I thought, how is that easier than running the ball? Why did it take that to get into the end zone? And then I was like, what I thought was, and I know people make fun of me for this, but the display of male dominance that he had, like, in that moment is something that I will never be able to achieve in my life. Like, he batted it, caught it effortlessly, and then was just
stiff-armed him, and then he kind of like looked at him and then walked into the end zone.
And then the walk is the key word there. He walked in. Like, typically you run in or you he just was in. He took a step and he was in the end zone. He's like, I was always supposed to be here.
So this is how I know that gambling has gone too far. Because my first thought, yes, I was happy they scored, especially after failing to score on 4 straight runs up the middle.
First touchdown of the game.
Which I had no problem. There you go. I thought, what were the odds of Anthony Nelson's first touchdown? My guess, plus 25,000.
Probably a little less than that.
You think so?
Yeah.
I mean, a defensive end scoring first touchdown?
You're right, because if it's a corner...
I bet defense alone was probably plus 10,000.
You're right, because a corner doing it wouldn't be as much. You know what? Scoring the first touchdown, not just any touchdown. I'm thinking of any touchdown, but the first touchdown, you're probably right. Probably higher.
I enjoyed seeing Spencer Rattler get pulled from that game.
Rattled.
I don't know if you saw my tweet. Did you see the conversation that I've had with Spencer Rattler before?
No.
So Spencer Rattler, because the Super Bowl last year was in New Orleans, Spencer Rattler spent a lot of time on Radio Row, and he was going around making the rounds. New Orleans Saints radio was set up right next to us. And so obviously he spent time with New Orleans Saints radio, but he was doing other interviews as well. And T-Kraz, I told T-Kraz, I go, if we could get him on the air, we should have him on. He's the Saints quarterback. Why not? And so I'm having a conversation with him. It's me, Spencer Rattler. I can't remember who else was around. Whatever, not important. And I asked Rattler, I said, hey, why don't you come on the air with us? We'd love to have you on. And he goes, what city? And I said, we're on in Tampa. And he went, Tampa? Ugh, I'm going to pass.
Wow. Have you told that before?
I put it on Twitter yesterday, and I think the city of Tampa gives him nightmares, and now it makes complete sense. I get why he didn't want to come on the air.
Or he just was buying into that rivalry early. Is it too young? Like, was he too early in his career to be like, no, I spit on Tampa?
That was my thought. Like, dude, you're barely the starter as the Saints. Like, and they're gonna draft. They hadn't drafted a quarterback yet, I guess. So.
Saints fans would love that. Like, if Saints fans knew that their quarterback
Correct.
was like, no.
What do you think about Saints fans and their whole, our rivalry is Atlanta? Do you think Buccaneers fans or the Bucs in general, and you can be honest, because I don't think they do, but do you think they try too hard to make this a rivalry? Because as somebody who came from the outside looking in, I've always looked at the Bucs and Saints, and maybe it's just because they've had more relevant games over the last decade, a better rivalry than the Saints and the Falcons. So the Falcons and the Saints, I mean, maybe they've become a good rivalry recently because they are, battling it out for second place. In this case, this year, third place. They're not even battling it out for second. Is that why they're, I know they go back to the old division before the Bucs were in the South, but what are your thoughts on Saints fans always kind of look at it? To me, it's weird that the Saints look down on anyone.
That's why it's so stupid what we're talking and I see it from Saints fans on social media, on Twitter.
They're like, oh, our rival's Atlanta. It's like, you are 1-7.
That's it. Like your season and your team has been bad for a while now. So the only fight you want to get into is like, which rivalries are better? Well, like, it doesn't matter if Bucs Falcons are better or it doesn't matter what you think is better. The Bucs are winning the division every single year. So you can look at it as like, I hate that team, or you can look at it as I hate the other team more than them. You're in last place in the division, so none of that matters. And if you're Carolina, none of it matters, the rivalry. You're just trying to get and win a division. Nobody's talking about Carolina. They're in second place in the division. So Atlanta and New Orleans can fight about the rivalry all they want. The fans can. Your teams are not doing well this year.
By the way, my favorite bet yesterday, which ended up hitting, Miami getting 7. Ever since I made the tweet, the NFC South keeps winning games. The NFC South has done nothing but lose games outside of the Buccaneers. I hate to, let me ask you this. Are you one of those people that likes to see you always want to see a team in your division lose? Don't get me wrong. But I feel when it comes to the NFC South, I almost become one of those SEC fans where I root for the conference. And let me explain first, because people are going to be like, what do you mean you root for the Falcons and the Panthers and the Saints? I don't root for them to win. I feel that confident the Bucs will win the division. I would like to get a little bit more respect on the division because it's been down for so long. And whether the Saints continue to like, if they were to win or the Falcons were to win, I'm not worried about anyone overtaking the division. I would like to just see another team. If the Bucs are going to finish the season with, let's say, 11 wins, I'd like to see second place have 9 at least.
I think the Bucs are going to win this division by 3 games.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Miami, they dominated Atlanta yesterday. It wasn't even close, and at home. That was.
Now, let's keep in mind, Kirk Cousins out of the freezer to come into play.
Fair, but Kirk Cousins wasn't playing defense. And this is a Miami offense that's been absolutely horrific.
And Atlanta's looked so good at times on defense and so bad at times on defense. Like, I can't tell. They are so Jekyll and Hyde. It is very bizarre watching them work. They lost 30-0 to the Carolina Panthers. I just have no idea what their identity is.
Well, and then Carolina, you're starting to feel good about them. They get the win over Dallas, and then they get blown out yesterday by Buffalo, which was one of those spots where it felt like Buffalo was due for a turnaround. They had just lost 2 in a row. The last team you want to be is the Carolina Panthers in that game. It kind of felt like that was going to be the game that, Buffalo just kind of opened it up. And, there's a lot of Sean McDermott talk, people wanting him gone. The NFC South, again, it looks like ass.
Yeah, and then that's how it's going to be. That's how it is. And the Bucs went out and beat the Falcons week 1. Tough game, came back and beat them, and they beat a bad Saints team yesterday. What about the other wins? Now, I know some of them aren't the best. The Jets win. You come back, but Seattle?
That was an incredible comeback by
both
the
teams.
Jets. Yeah, by both teams. But by the Jets. I was happy to see Aaron Glenn get his first win.
Seattle, you go into Seattle, you get a win. That's a tough win on the road. San Francisco comes over to you. I know it's not the same San Francisco team. I know they're beat up. You get a win. You got to win what's in front of you, and they're winning games outside of the division, and they're winning games in the division too.
Well, the San Francisco win was a good win. Mac Jones and Brock Purdy, it's like that Spider-Man meme where they point at each other. They're the same play. I don't think it makes a difference. San Francisco came into that game 4-1. They got a win a week later. San Francisco was a good win. I think the Seattle win going out west, probably the best win they've had, so far.
Considering how good Seattle looks overall.
Yeah, the Bucs team, I think at the beginning of the year, with all of the injuries, they were beating lesser teams. The Falcons weren't a great team. The beginning of the schedule, the beginning of the year, the schedule was very manageable.
Texans.
The Texans, their offense is absolutely they're hard to watch. The Texans are probably the team that I enjoy watching the very least. Their offense is just CJ Stroud's been horrible.
How do you fall off like that?
Year number 2, man. I mean, look at
he's year 3 now.
Well, no, I know, but I'm saying year number 2, he went down. It kind of reminds me like Jaden Daniels. Obviously, he's been hurt this year, but he doesn't look nearly as good as he did a year ago. I think once teams start to get film on you, things change a little bit. And now Drake May looks like the best quarterback from that class.
Get that film ready. Let's bring him down a peg.
Yeah, I thought the Patriots, they made a great hire by bringing Vrabel in. The second he was fired, you knew Gerard Mayo was out.
It should have never gotten to this point. It should have been Belichick into Vrabel.
I think they had that whole Gerard Mayo where it was like guaranteed into his contract. He was going to be a coach in waiting, so they had to.
Who cares?
They had to do it.
Cut the tie.
They had to do. You can't just fire a coach and then have to pay him all that money. This isn't college football. This is the NFL.
That's a whole disaster within its own right.
But the Buccaneers will go into the bye week 6-2. And it's a much needed bye week. So with the bye week, I guess my question for you is, what are you going to do next weekend?
I'm going to hang out at Pat Donovan's place on Sunday. And we're going to barbecue. What are you doing?
I am probably going to be doing I'm still going to watch football. To me, it doesn't change. Probably a little bit less to do. Don't have to be like focused in. Like yesterday, I wanted to be dialed in, focused in, especially knowing we were going to do this. It'll be nice to not have to do that. Like my wife wanted me to help her in the kitchen and peeling potatoes. I'm like, you're going to have to wait until halftime. Now I don't have to do that to her. So
potato peeling.
Yeah. We made something new yesterday. It was really good.
How was it?
It was,
what was it?
It was, she basically took diced up potatoes and then put hamburger meat on top of that. And then there was something she found on TikTok. And then on top of that went cheese and tomato. And I just told her, I'm like, keep TikToking this stuff.
So, right. So here's what's happening with football season. I realize it every year, but I forget. It ruins my life. I can't sleep. Like I'm going to say, oh, I'll rest this weekend, bye weekend. But like I won't. I'll have my eyelids taped open watching late night West Coast Saturday night games into Sunday, just nonstop. I haven't slept. I'm not sleeping. You think people are doing that too? They're not sleeping during football season?
I have had dreams recently, and I know we're supposed to do this on the Bucs, but not to get sidetracked. I've had dreams, and now I don't know if it's going to happen. And I guess this is probably more for my podcast tomorrow. I've had dreams Lane Kiffin coming to Gainesville, and now he told the crowd this weekend he was staying.
Buddy, when you say you had dreams, you mean like middle of the night, you're dreaming of Lane Kiffin like in the swamp?
Like dead asleep. I wake up to go to the bathroom in the morning, and I'm like, oh. I wake up and I realize Lane Kiffin's not the coach of the Gators.
We gotta take you to a doctor.
Have you've never had dreams about your sports teams? Like they never kept you up at night, like before a big game. See, you don't really have a diehard, like you like college football, but I think you're more of, you watch it for the gambling.
It's both. I love it
And
for the excitement.
you don't
and the
have a
gambling.
team like you do in the NFL
No.
where you're diehard. Like college football, there's something
No.
different. Like you don't know what that feeling.
I don't lose sleep over
Right.
anything.
You don't know that feeling the week of a big game. Like you're stressing it out. You're 6 days away, and you're like, what happens if we lose?
I
this
was
weekend?
upset for USF and how they lost to Memphis, but I didn't lose sleep over it. And I certainly am not dreaming about what could happen with the team and who could coach. That is bizarre.
Well, I talk a lot of Gators football on the air, and I do that Gator show, and I just think Lane Kiffin would be radio gold. And I think now with the LSU job open, the Gator job is no longer the premier opening. I think the LSU is a better job.
That's debatable,
and it is
for another day.
Yeah, it is. I know you're. If we keep talking college football, you ain't gonna go home today. It is, but the LSU job I think is the best job open, and then I think Florida's number 2 and Penn State's number 3.
Pat and Aaron show. We'll talk about it tomorrow.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because I'm coming in.
Yeah,
8:30. And then tomorrow on my podcast, Blown Coverage, we will obviously talk about all of the college football stuff. Before we get out of here, is there anything that we missed in the Bucs game that we should hit? We are now 31 minutes in to the broadcast. Is there anything in the game that you want to talk about? Or any thoughts?
No, I was really proud of Antoine Winfield Jr. and Anthony Nelson yesterday, and really this defense in general. I thought stepped up to the plate where the offense wasn't there. So good job. And like I mentioned, I'd like to see Sean Tucker get some more carries.
I'd like to see Sean Tucker get more carries. I don't know if he's got blackmail on every offensive coordinator that's been here at the Bucs. Let's actually end on this. Trade deadline's coming up soon. Do the Buccaneers need to get aggressive? Should they get aggressive?
No.
Will they get aggressive? I know everybody wants an edge rusher, but you could just insert team here, and every team wants an edge rusher. Wherever you listen to sports talk radio, that team and that show is going to be talking about that team wanting an edge rusher. I think the best thing that happened with this Buccaneers defense is that they have gotten so many good guys in the secondary, and now the rookies are stepping up. And now you're starting to see coverage sacks. For so long, we wanted to see edge rushers get pressure, and that's going to help the secondary. Would you say it's fair to say that the secondary has actually helped out the defensive line, and that's what's made them look good, is the good secondary?
Without a doubt, and that's why I think, like I said, Todd Bowles is learning how these young guys are fitting and meshing together, and he's figuring out ways, and they're figuring out ways as well, but he's putting them in the best positions to do that. And when you talk about the coverage sack, yeah, that's because guys are in the right position, and they're understanding what their assignment is. And with that assignment, tight coverage equals not a lot. The quarterback's got to get rid of the ball and gives you time for the guys to get after the quarterback and make a run for his life.
So Buccaneers win 23-3. I said I didn't feel good about the win. Here's the one positive about it, is there started to be chatter last week. By chatter, it was T-Crass. He was talking about, he likes to put the fear out there sometimes. He started talking about what nobody in Tampa Bay wants to hear, and that's Josh Grizzard getting a head coaching job. Yesterday was one of those performances where they win 23-3, and I'm like, yeah, that one should keep them probably from getting the head coaching job.
Go look at Dave Canales' season, and he's still got a head coaching gig. That was not a great offense.
If you are a team in the NFL looking for a head coaching job, just go watch all 4 of those runs from the 1-yard line. You don't want Josh Grizzard. We're going to go ahead and keep him in Tampa Bay. Liam Cohen's been good, though.
Yeah, they've been a little inconsistent
all right.
too.
All right, I think that's it. Unless there's anything else you got left to say.
No, thank you. Go Bucs. Enjoy the bye week, people. Enjoy the bye week. What
do you guys got coming up on your show tomorrow morning? Do you know?
We're going to be talking with you as well. And then the question is, little teaser here, Bucs dominant, kings of the NFC South. What if they were in a different division in the NFC this year? Would you be saying the same thing about them?
Okay, can we talk? Can we actually get into that a little bit right now?
No, it was a tease.
Just for a moment.
No, I don't want to steal my takes for tomorrow.
No. Look, there's going to be a fraction of the people that listen to this, and you don't have to share yours. You can save yours for the air.
Okay,
that's a really good topic. I want to pull up the NFL standings and talk about where they would be, because you're right. I do think that they've benefited from the schedule. I thought it was funny last year when people would be like, oh, this is a gauntlet of the schedule. And then you look up the strength of schedule. It was 24th hardest schedule. And yeah, there's good teams on it. And that's what's going to happen every year when you win the division. You're going to play other first place teams. So you don't have to give yours because I know you're going to speak on this topic on the air. This is all part of the tease for the Pat and Aaron show. Not stealing your topic, but we kind of are. But it's all for the tease for tomorrow because people are going to want to hear your answer. The AFC East, I think that they could compete with the Patriots and the Bills. I don't think that the Bills kind of scare me.
Stick to the NFC.
And all right, we're going to stick with the NFC. Is the NFC better this year than the AFC?
I think so because think about it, the Ravens are down.
The Ravens are dead.
The Chiefs have emerged and have been better, but yeah, I'm with you on that.
By the way, with the Steelers losing last night and the Ravens winning, they're 2-5. They're 2 games back. The Ravens are still alive to win that division.
On my overreaction Monday today on the Pat and Aaron show, I said the Ravens will win that division.
I don't think that's actually an overreaction. I think that's something that could. All right, so let me look at the NFC. NFC East, I don't think they're better than the Eagles. They've already played. The Cowboys, it really just all depends. They play great offense. Defense is awful. So I think the Bucs could light them up all day long. I think the offenses are very similar.
Washington's not the same team this year.
Washington's old, not the same team this year, dealing with injuries. The poor Giants, man. Scatterboo, Neighbors is out. I think the NFC North would be a tough division for
the toughest.
The Buccaneers. You know, the Bears have played pretty good. I would say that they're obviously behind the Lions because they just lost to the Lions, and then the Packers are on top of the division. So, you know, they'd be in third place in that division. I think they're better than the Vikings. And then when you look out west, I mean, they beat the Seahawks. Yep. They beat the Niners. Yep. I think the Rams are going to be, when it's all said and done, the best team in that division. So, yeah, I mean, I guess them being in the NFC South really hasn't benefited them that much. I still think they would be just as competitive and in the playoff hunt, even if they were in a different division. I'll get you out on this, and I know I've said that 3 times. Did you see Thursday night J.J. McCarthy on the sidelines walking just fine?
He's fine. Here's the deal, and this is a great thing that I came up with here with J.J. McCarthy.
In case you don't know, Aaron stole my take.
I did steal his take. I just took it from him.
I like how your dad found out about the take that you took it from me like 2 weeks later.
Oh, yeah. I was riding that take hard. And here's even more so. The second that they said he's the third quarterback, like he's emergency quarterback, that tells me he's been cleared. You do not have a guy in the game at all if he's not cleared or good to go. So he's good enough to go in there if they need him, but not enough to start. Fishy, and non-existent injury, allegedly.
Carson Wentz looked awful. And now, so he is due back. He's going to play this weekend. What are your thoughts on J.J. McCarthy? Why, of all the teams, would you start him against going back to Michigan, where he played his college ball, in Detroit, crazy environment, against the Lions, who have one of the best rosters in the NFL? That's not the spot I feel like you let him come back.
What's the weakness right now of the Lions due to injury?
I would say secondary, but they've showed us that it's not, and they're in the bye week right now, so they're going to get some guys back.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you got to get J.J. McCarthy in there, and you got to throw him in at some point. So he's got to feel it.
The Lions have Nick Whiteside in the secondary. They're fine.
Nick Wize.
Nick Whiteside. All right, that's going to do it for us. I'm Nick Wize. That is Aaron Jacobson. We're going to try to do this much more often. We just got this cool broadcast equipment. So, well, actually, we've had it. We just got shown how to use it.
Yeah,
so
I'm in. I want to do more
awesome.
of this.
You can find me on Twitter. It is I am Nick Wize. I am Nick Wize. Aaron.
At Jacobson on air. SON is how you spell Jacobson.
All right. There we go. This live is over. Enjoy Victory Monday. The Buccaneers win 23-3.